Good afternoon. This is Alyssa Parker with the Better Business Bureau. Just wanted to welcome you to the BBB Business Builders webinar with Larry Long Jr. on relationships, networking, and personal brand. We're really excited to have Larry here, but before we get started, just want to share a little bit about our programs. If you are not familiar, we have a number of programs happening right now that we're really excited about and just want to make sure that you're aware of. So first thing I want to touch on is our Brunch with BBB podcast. It is a great podcast where you get really great consumer and business information, and that's available anywhere you get your podcast. Just search Brunch with BBB. Of course, I want to mention our Shop Local page. If you go to bbbshoplocal.org, there you get all sorts of information about different accredited businesses and how they are still operating throughout this COVID pandemic and how you can support them in a safe manner. And of course, our Business Builders webinars like the one you are on today. If you visit bbbevents.org, you can see all of our upcoming webinars as well as see the recordings of our past webinars just in case you were unable to make them. Now that I've covered all of those events, I'm now going to hand it off to Larry. We're so excited to have him here. So without further ado, take it away, Larry.
Wow, thank you so much. I appreciate the kind introduction and I'm happy to be here. How's it going, everyone? I can't see you, but you can obviously see me, and we're going to get rocking and rolling. So we're here to talk about relationships, networking, and personal brand. I've got a question for you. What's your goal? We're going to spend the next 40 to 45 minutes talking. I want to know, what do you want to get out of it? Okay, I can't hear you, but I can hear you thinking. I've got two goals. So number one, I want to make sure that we dig into the importance of relationships, the importance of networking, as well as the importance of building our personal brand. I also want you to document, hopefully you've got a pen and a pad ready. I want you to document at least 2 action items of things that you can start doing right now to grow and expand your business, to grow your sales. Show of hands, who wants to grow sales? Okay, I thought so. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to bust a U-turn out of here. I'm in the right place. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. If you can see my screen, I'm going to give you a quick intro. I'm Larry Long Jr. I'm currently the director of collegiate sales at a company called Teamworks. We're based out of Durham, North Carolina, and we sell a software platform to elite athletic teams. I focus on the college market. The software is really designed as a communication, operational efficiency solution. And we recently acquired a company called Influencer, where we help athletes to tell their story, to build their brand, leveraging the platforms of Twitter, as well as Instagram, as well as TikTok. And with the recent legislation in California and Florida, they'll be able to monetize and make money by sharing their story, building their brand, and promoting other brands. So you can see that my experience, I played baseball at University of Maryland, go Terps. I know I'm in enemy territory, so I don't want to offend anybody. I've got much love for the Blue Devils, the Wolfpack, as well as the Tar Heels, but I'm a Terrapin at heart. You can see that I've worked for numerous tech companies, both nationally as well as locally, and hopefully I can bring some information that will help you today. So enough about me. Let's get into you and why you're here. So the agenda is very easy. I've got 3 points for the agenda. Number 1, we're going to dig into relationships. Number 2, we're going to dig into networking. And then number 3, we're going to dig into building your personal brand, as well as we'll leave some time at the end for any questions, and hopefully I'll have the answers. So please get ready. I hope you're ready. I'm ready. Get ready with some questions as we dig in. So show of hands, are you ready to rock and roll? I always like to get kicked off with a quote. And this quote right here talks about mindset. It comes from Henry Ford. It's one of my favorite. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So specifically today, when we're talking about leveraging your network and networking, when we talk about relationships, building and growing relationships, and we talk about your personal brand, you've got to have the right mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, we're going to be in trouble. So let's make sure that we get our minds right as we go along this adventure. Are you ready? Is your mind right? Okay, I see some head shaking. I see you out there. Certainly appreciate it. So let's get it kicked off. I like to start off with definition of sales. So I'm going to ask the question of you, when you think about sales, how would you define it? If an alien came down and said, Earthling, what is this thing you call sales? What would you say to them? I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about your answer. Go ahead and write it down. And if you don't mind, go ahead and add it to the chat. I'd be interested to know the diversity of thoughts around sales. Okay. Yep, I can see the gears turning. I love it. Let me share with you my definition of sales. When I think about sales, I think about matchmaking. I think that we're matching as business owners, as sales professionals, even non-sales professionals, we're matching our products, our services, our thoughts and ideas with someone else's, a prospect or a client, with their needs, with their wants, with their desires, their challenges, their hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And if we're able to make that match, now that's what I would consider selling. Now, so many times there's there's kind of a misinformation, a misdiagnosis that sales is the used car salesperson that's slimy, that's not trustful, that doesn't really care about you. And I want to bunk that. I want to debunk that as we look to build relationships built on trust and really built on caring and giving for others. So let's think about that as we move forward. Now I'm going to hit you with another quote, Tony Robbins, and he shares successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. So my question for you is, what questions are you asking of yourself, specifically when it comes to relationships, specifically when it comes to networking, specifically when it comes to building brand, your personal brand? So let's get into it. Relationships. When I think about relationships, there's really 3 tips that I'm going to take you through. But first, I'm going to get it kicked off with. I talked to a sales coach, Steve Nudelberg. He's based out of Florida. And he told me, hey, Larry, in my 30 years of selling, the one thing that I learned, one of many things, but one of the most important things that I learned is the difference between contacts, people that you know, and contracts, people that you do business with, people that you're now making that match with. Contacts, contracts is the letter R. Now I'm going to ask you, what do you think that letter R stands for? Now we got some bright folks that are listening in. You're absolutely right. Relationships. And he said it's true, genuine relationships that really turns contacts into contracts. Now there's a saying out there, it's not what you know, but help me out. I can't hear you, but it's who you know. And what Steve said is, I'm going to double click on that. He said it's not what you know, and it's not even who you know, but it's who knows you and who trusts you and who believes in you that really makes things happen. So my question to you as we get into my 3 tips is, what is your plan around building and growing relationships? Are you intentional with it? And I want you to answer the question. If you're not, shake your head no. It's okay. We've got to be honest, but I'm asking the questions because I want the right answers so that we can always work to improve. What's your plan? Are you intentional? Are you executing consistently? So many times in business, in sales, in life, we know what we're supposed to do. I'll give you the perfect example. My birthday was yesterday. On Sunday, I was going out to play golf. And even though my doctors told me, hey, Larry, you got to cut down on the fried foods, guess what time it was? Yes, you're right. It was bow time. I got a fried chicken biscuit, added cheese to a little bit of hot sauce. Oh, I was grubbing on my way to the golf course, but essentially knowing isn't doing. I know better. I know that I've got to execute and mix in a salad. I'm looking at the plants that are growing. So let's get into it. I appreciate everyone's attention. The 3 tips that I got, number 1, it really comes down to having a plan. You've got to make sure that you plan in terms of establishing new relationships as well as nurturing the current relationships. So when I think about that plan, and specifically with relationships, it's kind of, I don't know if anyone has a green thumb, but you've got to plant the seeds. And after you plant the seeds, it takes work. It's not like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. You've got to put in that work. So you plant the seed, you've got to water it. It's a rainy day here in good old Durham. You got to make sure you've got sunlight, and sometimes you've got to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty, and you've got to lay down some manure. I know it doesn't smell good, but it helps those relationships to grow. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, and also with tip number one, you've got to be patient. It takes time for those relationships to grow. So really being consistent in building those relationships. Tips number two, and you'll see here the picture, it's not being a me monster. So this guy right here, it's all about him. Me, 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 me. And we know that in relationships, it's not about you. It's really having that go-giver spirit of what can you do for others, keeping others in focus. And people appreciate that. Think back to the last party. I know it was hopefully pre-COVID, but the last party you were at and the conversations that you had. And I know that we've all been around those folks that just want to talk about themselves. And it's like, oh goodness, bore me. Are they going to continue talking about themselves? What about me? It's really those people that ask the great inquisitive questions that learn so much and are able to build those relationships. So tip number two, I encourage you, don't be a me monster. It's not about you. There's a book called Go Giver. Be a go giver. I like go getters, but I like even more go givers. I look at it as there's really two types of people in this world. There's the one that wakes up in the morning and says, how much can I take from this world? How much can the world give me? The world owes me everything. I like to work with those people and have relationships with those people that wake up and say, wow, it's a blessing to be alive. How much can I give to others? How can I serve others? And they know that by serving others, it's just magical. There's no magic pixie dust. There's no magic seed, Jack and the Beanstalk. There's no silver bullet, but it's absolutely amazing that the more you give, and I've heard a trainer call it deposits. It's kind of like the bank. You can't ask for something from someone if you haven't made deposits and added value and genuinely cared about their interests. So I encourage you as you look to build these relationships to not be a me monster. This is trivia right here. I'm going to hit you. This is a tough one. This is my favorite radio station. I don't know, show of hands, any music lovers out there? My favorite radio station, WIIFM. Is anyone out there familiar with this radio station? If you are, ding, 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 you win the prize. I don't know what the prize is, but I'm sure we can figure something out. This radio station is what's in it for me. What's in it for me? And that's what the folks that you're establishing relationships want to know. When we're talking, what's in it for me in this relationship? If all you're doing is talking about you, I'm probably going to tune out. I'm probably not going to be engaged. It's kind of like I liken it to going to the doctor. And I think the doctor performs a SOAP note, a subjective and objective, an assessment and a plan. That's what SOAP stands for. The subjective is, hey, why are you here today? Well, doc, it's my right shoulder. Oh, well, when does it hurt? Does it hurt right here? Does it hurt right there? How did you do it? Oh, I was throwing a baseball. I played baseball at University of Maryland, and this is near and dear to me because I have a bum shoulder. But essentially, they dig in and they ask the questions. They truly and genuinely care about what's going on in my life. Then they get into the objective. Well, let me go ahead and look in there. Let's do an MRI. Let's see if it's torn. And now I'm able to do an assessment and a plan, which hopefully that plan consists of whatever product, whatever service, whatever idea, thought that I have. But if it doesn't, I'm going to communicate that, hey, we're not a fit right now. We're not a match. Let's part ways as friends and let's keep the relationship going. Does that make sense to everyone when it comes to establishing relationships? I hope those 3 tips make sense. So this right here talks about the importance of why we've been blessed with 2 ears and 1 mouth. Roy Bartel, you can read it, but I'll read it for you. Most people think selling is the same as talking. It's not. Surprise. The most effective salespeople know that listening, listen, is the most important part of their job. And I believe that we're all in sales, whether we have the official title of sales or not. If we own a business, we better be selling to keep the lights on. especially during these turbulent times and as we hopefully come out of them. But even when times are going great, we're always selling, we're always helping, which you'll see a little bit later. So with that, let's move into networking. And I think we've all heard the term, your network is your net worth. And the big thing that I want to call out when it comes to networking is oftentimes we've got to step out of our comfort zone. That's where true growth happens. I know that not everyone is comfortable going to networking events. I know that not everyone is comfortable with putting yourself out there, but my encouragement to you is to be bold. I think Sarah Bareilles, I've heard her song, Be Brave. Take a listen. Sarah Bareilles, Be Brave. I want to see you be brave when it comes to expanding your network and therefore expanding your net worth. So I've got 3 tips, and the first one starts here. Get social. There's so many social media platforms that are just primed and ready for your ideal customer profile. Now, number one, you got to understand who is your ideal customer profile and where do they hang out. I know for me, I love to hang out on LinkedIn, but in our business, we sell to collegiate coaches, collegiate athletic directors. For the most part, you're not going to find Nick Saban or you're not going to find Dabo Sweeney on LinkedIn. But we do know that Twitter is prime for anyone that's in sports. Most individuals in athletics have a Twitter page. Most teams have a Twitter page. So essentially, that's where we're going to spend our time. Think about it. Are your customers on Facebook? Is there an opportunity for you to network and establish relationships with them and really share all the good things that you're doing on those social media platforms? I also encourage you, in addition to getting social on social media platforms, is to also follow traditional channels such as that 500-pound phone. You can see from the gentleman's face down there, he doesn't look all too pleased, but the phone is an excellent place to expand your network and really have the opportunity to engage with and learn from others. Email is another one. I don't know about you, but my email gets backed up. That's a pretty clogged channel. I know the phone is a little bit less clogged, and I'll tell you that even lesser travel channel is snail mail. You can see right there in the bottom right, being able to write a handwritten note that's customized, that's personalized. You'll see as we talk about a little bit later, how do you set yourself apart from everyone else? Tip number 2, it really ties into the company that you keep. Jim Rohn, as you can see, I'm a big fan of quotes. I love to learn from the best. There's 2 ways that you can learn, I believe, in life. You can learn from mistakes, which, yes, guilty as charged. I've made a ton of mistakes. Or you can learn from mentors. You can learn from Sherpas. You can learn from people that have already gone through and they bashed their head against that brick wall. And now they're sharing with you the lessons they learned so you don't have to make those same mistakes. So Jim Rohn, he calls it, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I'm going to ask you a question. Your network and your net worth. Do you have a plan? Do you plan who you spend time with? Are you intentional? And by intentional, I mean, do you write it down on a piece of paper so that you can iterate and you can test, and then you can iterate again and test and really see what works and what sticks? I would love to hear your answers. If you don't mind, share those answers. Do you have a plan? As well as do you have intentionality? So that's absolutely good. Tip number 3, it comes down to having a plan, being prepared, because as Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And I don't think any of us go out and say, hey, we are prepared to fail. But so many times our actions, they speak so. There's a term that says your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So I encourage all of us to write down what plan of action you're going to take. And then as Allen Iverson said, I'm a big basketball fan. Yes, we are talking about practice. And in this respect, I mean practicing by going out to virtual networking groups, by going out to webinars like this that are being hosted, actually going out and stepping out of your comfort zone and hosting a webinar yourself for your clients, for your prospective clients, for your colleagues, so that you then have the opportunity to network with like-minded individuals, with individuals that you might be able to turn from contacts into contracts. Good stuff. So now for the finale. Who are you? We're talking about that personal branding, which is so important. And essentially, there's a saying that people buy and people follow other people. They don't necessarily look at the organization, they look at your personal brand and they ask the question, is this someone that I can trust? Is this someone that has my best interests in line and someone that I want to do business with? They're asking that question. So I've got two tips for you, but the question I've got for you is, what are you doing to amplify your voice? That's a question. How do you amplify your voice today? How do you share your story? Essentially, that's what I call story selling. Tip number one, you should start to develop content. And that could look in various different ways. That could be a blog where you write. It could be articles that you write and that you post to LinkedIn, that you post to various associations. It could be a podcast that you host. And once again, this might be out of your comfort zone, but remember, out of your comfort zone is where the true growth and the true results come from. So I encourage you to develop content. How about a podcast, a video podcast that you post on the YouTube, creating your own YouTube page, doing Facebook Live, doing LinkedIn Live. There's so many different avenues that you can go. And that really ties into another tip that I've got coming up. Differentiation and creativity. So if you think about it, you just look around in the business world. If you look around in the world in general, there's a sea of sameness. There's a lot of folks that are doing the same exact thing. And the way that I look at it is, if you're in a sea of black boxes, you don't want to be a black box. You can see from this illustration right there, you got the bright yellow egg that's got a smile on their face and they're winking. Essentially, in a sea of black boxes, I want to be a green triangle that draws attention, positive attention, for people to say, wow, there's something a little bit different about this person, about this business. I want to learn more. Now I'm dangling that carrot and they're chomping on it saying, tell me more. That's what I encourage you to do, is to differentiate and to really be intentional and to think through, how can I be creative? Can I write a handwritten note? Can I put together a swag bag that has everything that's North Carolina based? Whether it's Bojangles, whether it's Baderi chocolate in downtown Raleigh, whether it's a craft beer that comes from North Carolina, but thinking through, how can you separate yourself and your brand from everyone else? And I encourage you not to just tell your story, but you should also be sharing the story of those that you serve, of those that you work with, because now you're making them the hero and you in the background helping to amplify their voice, helping to support them to be the hero and get results. It's amazing. The more that you give, I guarantee you, the more that you'll get back. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. That rarely happens. But if you do that and you continue to execute over time, come and holler at me if you don't get the results. There's certainly some things that we can do, but I encourage you to differentiate. Now that we've gone through our networking, we've gone through our relationships, we've gone through our personal branding, what do we do next, Larry? Well, essentially, we've got to execute. I don't know if anyone wears Nike, but their tagline is just do it. So I encourage you to go out there and execute. And this right here says it best. Only you can make it happen. So I encourage you all to go out there, make it happen, build those relationships, expand your network, essentially new folks to your network, but also the existing folks in your network, making sure you're putting in that work. You're watering, you're giving it sunlight, and when you have to, you're laying down some of the manure. So if anyone has seen this movie, you'll know, keep calm and always be, okay, I hear closing. No, we don't always want to be closing, always be helping. As we talked about before, it's really keeping that customer-centric, that prospect-centric mindset, that it's not about you. I'm not in this because of me. I'm in this because I want to serve, I want to help you. So keep calm and always be helping. It's amazing how when you help others, it just turns into a win-win-win situation for everyone. I would be remiss if I didn't end with this. I don't know if you can tell, but I like to enjoy myself. Life is too short to not have fun. And believe you me, I understand the current environment that we're in. It's challenging. We're going through some turbulence. We're going through some chaos. And I just encourage each and every one of you to fight it out, to fight it out. Keep that smile on your face, keep that positive attitude, that positive mindset, and keep working at it. We're going to find a way to get through it. Through it all, enjoy yourself. You've got to have fun. Believe you me, you only live once, YOLO. You got to have fun with what you're doing. So with that, I want to say thank you for your attention. I will open it up to any questions from the audience. And here goes my contact information. If I can ever serve you, if I can ever be a resource for you, if I can ever give my time, my resource, my insights, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I truly appreciate your time, your attention, and I'm looking forward to hearing the great strides that you're making in terms of those relationships, the networking, as well as your personal brand. So I'm going to turn it back over and see if we have any questions from the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Larry. So if anybody has a question, you can do two things, kind of depending on however you feel more comfortable. You can raise your hand, I can unmute you, and you can ask this question verbally, or you can, of course, put it in the question box. So there's two methods. I already have quite a few questions in the question box, so we will get to all of those. But as I mentioned before, if you want to talk to Larry verbally, just go ahead and raise your hand and I can unmute you. So we'll get started. I actually have two questions regarding this topic, so I'll just go with this one. It says, what things can I do to better my networking methods? I'm generally a shy person, and when I get nervous, I tend to go on and on. What are some key topics to discussing when it comes to networking?
I love it. I love it. And I don't know if you can tell, I love to talk. I love to have the microphone in my hand. And when I get nervous, I start to talk real quick. I get excited. I start to sweat, and it's a disaster. So what I would recommend is the shyness, you are who you are. But I encourage you to break through that shyness and essentially take baby steps to step out of your comfort zone. I'm not sure what industry you're in, but I would imagine, I hate to assume, but I would assume that there's events, and now with the pandemic, I would imagine that there's online events, there's online webinars, there's online meet and greets. And if there's not, that's an opportunity for you to create one in your world, whatever your space is. Really be intentional and think about, who are the people that I want to serve? Who are the people that I want to work with? Who are the potential clients? Who are my current clients? Who are those that are in the same space as me that might be interested in getting together and really sharing ideas? And when you feel yourself, and it's great, I certainly applaud your self-awareness. That's step one, to know that, number one, you're shy, and number two, it's out of your comfort zone and you like to talk. But I would encourage you to be intentional. Maybe get a note card. Maybe get a note card where you write down 2 ears, 1 mouth. And that will hopefully reinforce that you want to do more listening than you do talking. And I would encourage, why not plan some questions that you have? Have some go-to questions. I can share with you from a sales perspective, my two go-to questions. Number one, and this is the secret, I'm opening this up from the vault. I'm giving this to you. I hope you have your pen ready. Number one is, walk me through your process, ... So Jane, walk me through your process of your morning routine. And then I just shut up. And essentially Jane can't respond back and say yes or no. Jane is going to think through, well, when I wake up, I go and I work out, and I do this and I do that. Oh, wow. Now I can peel back the onion if I listen, if I'm actively listening and I'm in the moment, and I'm not just thinking through, what can I now say? No, I want to learn more. I want to go ahead and double click down on that and learn more. Well, Jane, you told me you work out. What kind of workout do you do? Oh, wow, you're doing P90X? Yeah, I did P60X. That's amazing. How do you like it? Now you've got that conversation. Now you're learning. You're learning that information, kind of like a doctor. Question number 2, what's holding you back? Dot, dot, dot. So Larry, what's holding you back from reducing your fried chicken input? Why do you keep going to Bojangles? I know you've invested in the company, but that doesn't mean you need to eat them each and every day. It's not always bow time. Hmm, that's a great question. You hit me right where it hurts, right in my heart. So I encourage you to really be prepared, to really have a plan, to document it and be intentional. And please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to dig down deeper into that to see if there's anything I can do to help you. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, that was a great response, Larry. And for anybody who didn't have a pen to write those 2 questions down that he pulled out of the vault for you, it was what's your process, dot, 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 and what's holding you back. So I think, I think for a lot of people, just knowing how to get started when you go to these events, whether it be in person or virtual, is what do I say? And so I think those 2 questions are really helpful. So definitely appreciative of you for sharing that. Another question that we have is, what has been the most useful tool in networking online for you?
Yeah, that's a great one. For me, it's been LinkedIn.
Okay.
Just being in the software space, SaaS space. Um, Even though I'm in the athletic space, you got to get creative. So even though head coaches, assistant coaches, um, athletic directors normally aren't on LinkedIn, we've gotten creative, and directors of ops, whether it's director of football operations at colleges and universities, director of basketball operations, you can find them on LinkedIn. Sometimes they're active, and that's great. And essentially what I'll do is I'll reach out with a connection request, and in my connection request, it allows you, I think it's 130 characters. It's a limited amount of space, but I'll essentially put in there why I'd like to connect with them. And essentially, I try to answer the question of why you now, and where I'd like to take this. I'm very upfront in terms of why I'm reaching out. I don't have any hidden agenda. I want to establish a relationship to see if there's an opportunity for us to play matchmaker. Can I solve any of your challenges? Can I help you to get to what your goals are? Well, I need to understand those first. I can make some assumptions, but I hate to assume. So for me, LinkedIn has been great. And I'll share with you, I talked about differentiation. Here goes another secret that I'll go into the vault. If you have LinkedIn on your phone, if you go into where the chat is, if you're sending a direct message to someone, to the right, you'll see a microphone. If you click the microphone once, it now brings up a big microphone. If you hold that down, you can now send an audio message. Not many people are sending audio messages. If you let the secret out, more and more people are going to do it. But right now, that's my big differentiator. When I get done here, guess what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be double clicking and doubling down on the audio. And if you look to the right of the text box, there's a plus sign. And in there, you can send video. So there's a lot of video email tools, which is awesome. But essentially, I want to stand out. In that sea of black boxes, I want to be that green triangle. So what I do is I go to video, I turn the camera around, I set it up, and I send a message. Hey, Jane, it's Larry here. So excited to connect with you. I'm reaching out to you because dot, 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 dot. And here's the action that I want us both to take if you're open to it. There's another thing you can do to be creative, and you can send GIFs or GIFs. I don't know how you pronounce it. I apologize, but it's GIF. However you pronounce that, once again, it just makes people chuckle. It helps you to really humanize yourself, that you're not just out here slanging. For me, software, I'm trying to create genuine relationships and truly trying to help people. So essentially, I'm letting them know that I feel your pain. I understand what you're going through. I know that we're in a pandemic. I know that top of mind is, how do I get my student athletes back to campus safely? How do I ensure, this is my industry, how do I ensure that we're able to have fall sports safely for my student athletes, for my staff, for our fans? So I'm essentially an industry expert. I was speaking with someone earlier, and essentially there's 5 things that I try to make sure I'm an expert in. Make sure I'm an expert in my company, my industry, my product, the tools and resources, both internal and external, and then for me, sales. Essentially the technical selling process and technical sales skills. So if I can continue to up level my game, and for me as a leader, up level my team's game, dynamite, as JJ would say. So I hope that answers your question. LinkedIn is my go-to. If you go to my Twitter page, you'll see it's pretty weak. I'm not a great tweeter, but I'm trying to step my game up there as well. But my go-to is LinkedIn.
Well, awesome, Larry. I think that's obviously great advice, and probably everyone on this should, I'm assuming, reach out to Larry and on LinkedIn and get connected.
And if you give me an audio clip or a video clip, you get bonus points, and I'll give you a cookie.
There you go. There you go. So kind of circling back to social media, I think this is a really interesting question, and I think a lot of people probably struggle with it. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. This person submitted, what do you think about intermixing professional/personal beliefs on your social media pages?
Yeah, so there's no right answer to that. For me personally, I try my best to keep my personal business personal and my business, if that makes any sense. But also, there is some crossover because essentially, my personal brand is that I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a golfer. I'll use that term loosely. I'm more of a gopher. Actually, Tiger, don't tell anyone else, but Tiger Woods is my cousin. I'm Larry hit it in the woods, but don't boom. But essentially, that's really a personal decision that you got to look at and say, the brand that I represent, do I want to have that crossover between my personal, as you can see, my beautiful family is behind me, and my business. And I try my best to separate it, but there is some overlap. I think back to some of the content that I produce. If you look at some of the articles that I posted, some of the things that I've posted on LinkedIn, it does include examples from my family because that's a part of my life. It's a big part of my life. When you look at my priorities, my faith, my family, my friends, my fitness, which I got to do a better job of, no more bow time, but also having fun. There's a lot of F's there. But I would say that's really a personal call. We had the conversation a few weeks back. We did a social media audit internal with our team, and we specifically focused on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. And Twitter, you'll see that at least for my reps and some of my successful reps, they publish about what's going on within their family. They use that. And then with prospects, they're able to get insight into prospects as people, as real people that have kids, that have families, that go through trials and tribulations and reach successes and have heights. But Twitter is more for an informational gathering, whereas LinkedIn is really that networking. It's really that platform for collaboration where people are coming together and ideas are being exchanged. And for me, it's been it's been awesome. And you got to be real. You can't be one person here and another person there. You really got to be real. So I apologize, I haven't answered your question directly. It's really that's a personal call that you've got to make.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that answers it. Like you said, what aligns with your brand and you yourself, and yeah, it's a personal call. So hopefully that gives that person a little bit more clarity, because I do know that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, or they're trying to determine themselves. But really got to take a look, I think, at what you're trying to accomplish and if it aligns with that. Okay, so we have another question here. Says, who are some of your favorite business writers or mentors that you've encountered?
Yeah, that's a good one right there. So I just got asked this. Ooh, it was late last week. What's my favorite book? And my favorite sales book is Spin Selling by Neil Rackham. To answer your question, I'll be honest with you. My father, he passed away 5 years ago, but he's been the biggest influence on my life, as well as my mother. My father ran track at Maryland, so I grew up at the track and seeing his work ethic. His background, he grew up in Baltimore City. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the show The Wire, but he grew up in the projects, and track and field was his avenue out of the projects. Graduated from Maryland, ran track at Maryland, went on and got his master's. So just an example. Wasn't what he said. I mean, he said a lot. Imagine that. But it was more what he did. Professionally, I've had a ton of mini mentors. So, I mean, my main mentor is Mark Winchester. Thank you, Mark, if you're tuning in. But I've really been fortunate, really been blessed to have met, and I continue to meet what I call mini mentors. And I look at different stages throughout my career, my professional career, my personal career. There's been different folks that have not necessarily been older, but they've definitely been wiser and have just had various experiences that I've been able to learn from. And I can tell you, I just turned 42 yesterday. As I've gotten older, I've realized that I've got to drop the ego. I've got to be bold and be brave myself to ask those questions of folks that might have good answers, because it's painful to have to learn from your own mistakes. And at one point, I can't remember where it was, but I said, "Hey, Larry, you got to cut this of learning from the school of hard knocks. You got to learn from others that have already gone to that school and they've passed it and they've graduated and they've taken the bumps and the bruises through the turbulence so that you don't have to." Now, I'm not saying it's all smooth sailing, but it certainly helps when you don't have to go down this road because you've been advised by your Sherpa to take a U-turn and go down this path. Why zig when you should zag? And there's folks that are out there. So mentors, I've had some formal mentors. I serve as a mentor at the NC State Entrepreneurship Clinic. I just love the innovation of the young, bright minds. And I wake up every day, how can I help others? Whether it's my sales team, whether it's others that are in the sales profession, whether it's folks that are looking for guidance in life, entrepreneurship. I've been down that road and I've had a business that failed. I've been down that road and I had a goal of playing professional baseball that didn't get realized. But I can look back at it and say, here goes what I learned, and here goes what I recommend to you if I were in your shoes. So I encourage you to really think through and be intentional. Who do you want to learn from? I talked with a gentleman that's the local chair of Vistage Worldwide. They're an organization, kind of a, I guess you would call it a think tank or a mastermind that's designed for CEOs. And I'm not a CEO. I aspire to be a CEO, and I've got some ideas to launch my own business. But what he shared is that the best members are those that have a growth mindset. It's not those executives that think that they got it all figured out. If you've got a closed mindset and you think you got all the answers, good luck. It's going to be very tough because there's always something else you can learn, especially in today's age where innovation and things are changing at a rapid pace. If you're not able to adapt, if you're not flexible, if you're not capturing knowledge, if you're not consuming content, whether it's books, blogs, vlogs, articles, you name it, conversations from industry experts, you're going to have a very tough time. And it's a choice. We all wake up and we have a choice. For me, I choose to wake up, have a positive attitude. I choose to proactively seek out content and knowledge. And I don't know, knock on wood, it's helped me to be successful thus far. Great question.
Awesome. So we have a couple more questions. And like I said previously, if you have additional questions, you can put them in the question box and we'll get to them in the appropriate order. Or if you really want to, you can ask Larry verbally. Just raise your hand and I will unmute you. But right now he says, how can I best brand my business during this pandemic?
Yeah, that's great. Essentially, and I think it's Martin Luther King Jr. has a quote, and he says, life's most pertinent and urgent question is, what are you doing to serve others? So that's the question that I'm going to ask you. During this pandemic, what are you and your business doing to serve others? What actions are you taking to help others, whether it's your employees, whether it's your current clients, whether it's your future prospective clients? I'm sure that you've got a story to tell. I hate to assume, but I would assume that there's a pretty good story to tell. How can you craft that story and share that with others that might find that of interest? Whether it's a news organization, whether it's an association, whether it's your local chapter of your Better Business Bureau, there's a lot of folks that are looking for feel-good stories, as well as looking for areas where folks have learned. I would imagine that through this pandemic, I think we're coming up on, I'm not good at math, but maybe 13, 14 weeks, but who's counting? I'm sure that you've learned a lot of lessons. So I would encourage you to position yourself as the organization that helped. that took a stand and said, hey, we're going to put our stake down and we're going to help as many people as we can. I mean, I'm just thinking through the stories of those that are on the front lines in the hospitals that are serving, those that are also working in grocery stores and in restaurants and serving others and helping those underrepresented communities that might be struggling with just making meals. So my question to you is, what are you doing to serve others? And that would be my recommendation in terms of how you position your brand, because once again, the people that we generally interact with, they can smell BS from a mile away. So are you authentic? Are you really doing what you say you're doing, or are you just talking about it? And recently, with everything that's been going on in our society, we've seen a lot of organizations that talk a good game, but when you dig under the cover, you see that your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. I can't see the logo that you put out there that was trendy and that was good, nice try, but you can't fool me. You can't BS most people. So I would encourage you to authentically think about what have you done to serve others and do more of it. And make sure that you amplify your voice and amplify the voice of those that you serve to get the word out. There's nothing wrong with sharing your story.
Another question that we have is, you mentioned creating content. What avenue is the best for you for content?
Yeah, that's a good one. So for me, actually, since the pandemic started, what have I been doing? I do every Wednesday. You can go look on my LinkedIn page. I do a midweek, midday motivational minute, and I wish it was a minute, but I'm kind of long-winded. Imagine that. So essentially, it's 1 minute to 3 minutes where I talk about a topic that's on my mind, and my purpose is to hopefully inspire and motivate someone else that could be challenged. So that's the best way for me to share my content, and I'll share it with you. I'll be honest, I was a bit hesitant to put myself on video. I mean, I know it. I've got the face for radio. You don't have to remind me. I'm joking, but don't. But essentially, being able to put out the video, I talked with a colleague of mine. He's younger, Morgan Ingram. He's out of Atlanta, Georgia, and he shared with me, "Hey, Larry, my mentor told me because he was at a crossroads of do I put out videos on the YouTube." He had a series called the SDR, Sales Development Rep Chronicles, and he was hesitant. His mentor said, "Morgan, you're being selfish if you don't put yourself on video." Essentially, there's at least one person out there that could benefit from what you had to say, from your thoughts, from your ideas. And if you don't put it out there because you're scared, yeah, not scared, but you're scared, then you're doing a disservice. And his mentor told him, shame on you if that's the case. And Morgan ended up posting his videos. He's got hundreds of episodes, and he was able to inspire me. I was able to hear his story and actually take action. And I stepped out there on faith, and stepped out there being bold and being brave and not just talking a good game. So take a look. I think I've got 7 episodes. They're really short. They're really sweet. I've got a YouTube page that I post them on YouTube as well. So I would encourage you to find your medium, your audience. Where are they? Where do they hang out online? Are they on YouTube? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Snapchat? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Twitter? There's so many different avenues. I would encourage you to really find out. And the best way to find out is to talk to your current clients. Hey, every day, what platform are you on? Oh, we're on LinkedIn and Instagram. Okay, let me ask the next one. And you'll start to see trends, and that will help you to inform your decisions and to help inform your plan. And even when you put out your plan, I encourage you to measure results, to iterate, and to continue to test. So I hope that's helpful for me. My bread and butter is LinkedIn. I would love your feedback. Take a look at my LinkedIn profile, and please let me know, how can I get better?
Awesome. We actually have a follow-up question from that same person. It says, how do you get people to consume your content from nothing? Which I know you touched on a little bit, but maybe if you could just kind of expand on that.
That was a question I had. What if it's like the Field of Dreams? I build it and they don't come. Oh, I'm in trouble. But you think about it. What's the worst that happens? You put out your content and no one reads it. Back to the drawing board. It's kind of like my baseball career at Maryland. My freshman year, I wasn't starting. I was getting in the 7th inning, 8th inning as a defensive replacement. I'll get one at bat, and I started off my career 1 for 24. And there was a lot of self-doubt. That voice in our mind is so powerful. Believe you me, if it's negative, it can it can terrorize you. I can tell you that person in the mirror is the one that I'm struggling with. But essentially, when I put in those positive voices, yes, you can. Let's go, Larry. You can do it. When you put it out there with confidence, when you put it out there with a great caring spirit, a genuine spirit, someone is going to consume your content, even if it's just me. Believe you me, I'm always looking for information. I'm always looking for positive stories. I'm always looking for stories where people learn, where it might not have been a positive situation, but what did you learn? I want to dig into your mindset. What would you do differently if you were presented with that? If you send it to me, I guarantee you'll have at least one person to consume your content, and I would gamble. I would put money that you'll have more than one person that consumes your content, and it's kind of like a snowball. But it takes time. When you first start off and that snowball is small, oh, you're putting in a lot of work. Now, when that thing gets big, you kind of reach that tipping point. I don't know if you read that book, but you reach that tipping point, and it's kind of like my favorite song, "Ain't No Stopping Us Now."
Awesome. Love it. I have two more questions for you. I know we're running out of time. We're trying to end by 3, obviously, and be respectful of everyone's time. So I have 2 more questions, but if you have a last second question and we can get a short answer, make sure you put it in. But right now we have, how do you stay on, quote, company brand at work, but also build your personal brand?
Yeah, great question. I mean, you got to be authentic. I mean, for me, I'm high energy. I've been called Crazy Larry, and essentially, I'm a representative of my company. I'm going to do my best to make sure I represent them in a positive light. But ultimately, I own my own business, so I get a paycheck from my employer. But I'm Larry Long Jr. LLC. You're Joe Smo, Jane Doe Incorporated. So you've got to think about, what is your brand? What do you want your brand to be? And we've done an exercise, a branding exercise, where it's pretty interesting. You go to the people that you work with and ask them anonymously. You put a plus on one side, you put a delta sign on the other. You just ask them, hey, when you see my name, what are the top 2 positives that come to mind? For Larry, it's positive attitude, always has a smile on his face, always willing to help. Well, also on the opportunity area, what are the top 2 opportunities that come to mind? Well, Larry, calm down. You don't have to be hype all the time. And Larry, sometimes you need to adjust. Not everyone responds back to that, that high energy. So I understand what my brand is. Now, I am who I am, and I try to adapt to different scenarios, but I am who I am. If that's what your brand is, I encourage you to put it out there, be proud of it, own it. And if your company has an issue with it, then you got to adapt. You got to make sure you take care of business first. But I would certainly encourage you to be bold, be brave, and put it out there and see what happens. You might be amazed how magical it is when people are engaged. I mean, it's amazing. You look at YouTube, and there's some of these kids influencers, there's the cosmetic influencers that have huge followings with things that you would never even think of. It's like, wow, mind blown. That's amazing. I know we got a couple more questions, so I hope that answers your question, but feel free to reach out to me if I can assist. I mean that.
And the last question we have, it says, how do you cultivate a business relationship?
Yeah, it takes work. It's just like any other relationship. I mean, essentially, it comes down to trust. It comes down to consistency. So it's not like every day, but I can share with you that my mentor, he sends me postcards periodically that really mean something. He sends postcards on the birthdays of my kids in September and October. He sends a card commemorating my father's passing, which means a lot to me. And I mean, it's just these things that come straight from the heart that are little things. And essentially, there's a saying that the little things mean a lot. There was actually, I can't find it online, but there was a study that looked at horse racing. I'm not into horse racing, but they looked over the course of a season, and they saw that the number 1 horse and the number 2 horse, when you looked at the times, they were tenths of a second off. But when you looked at the earnings of the number 1 horse and the number 2 horse, it was like millions of dollars difference. So what is that? What's the moral of that story? Is that the little things mean so much. So if you actually think, if you're intentional and you think through, how can I cultivate this relationship? What is the watering? What does that look like? The sunlight, what does that look like? Is it periodically sending an article? Hey, Larry, I thought this might interest you. Is it periodically thinking through, who could I connect them with that might be a benefit to their network? Hey, I understand you're in this industry. I met so and so and thought that you guys might want to meet each other because there might be magic to be made. And if not, hey, it's a new friend. What else can I do? What are the little things that I can do? Maybe they like honey buns like me. Mail a honey bun to them. Hey, I was thinking about you. Maybe they're a golfer or a gopher like me. You can go on to Amazon and find little tchotchkes for golf stuff that you send to them. And that just, once again, you built the foundation, but now you're able to build on that foundation of the relationship. So really it's being thoughtful, it's having a plan, and most importantly, it's actually executing and doing something. So many times we think about it, and I'm guilty of it. I'm the king of writing things down that I don't actually implement. Shame on you, Larry. No, it ain't doing. But if you do it, I guarantee that you'll start to see results if you consistently, not just one and done, but consistently take action. Those little things will now become big things. And it's absolutely amazing. I've seen it. Just truly caring, genuinely caring about others and putting others first and thinking about how can I serve them? What might be on their mind? How can I help them during this time? It's absolutely amazing. So I encourage you, give it a try. And once again, I mean it. I'm not, this isn't just lip service. If there's anything that I can do to help, please feel free to reach out to me. You got my email, you got my phone number, you got my LinkedIn, you got my Twitter. Hit me up whichever way works best for you.
Very neat. Well, that is all the questions that we have. I highly encourage everyone who is attending this webinar to reach out to Larry with any question that you may have. As he mentioned before, he has all his every chance to every way you want to try to connect with him, you can. It is on the presentation right now, so make sure you write that down. Larry, thank you so much. We're so appreciative of you taking the time to really share your insight on just relationships, networking, and building your personal brand, which is so important in today's day and age, not only for you yourself, but also for your business, and obviously doing, both of that and balancing both of that. So thank you so much. As a recap of some of the programs that I had mentioned earlier, we have Brunch with BBB, really great podcast to get all of your great consumer and business information. You can get that where all of your podcasts are available, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, all that fun stuff. We have our BBB Shop Local site. If you go to bbbshoplocal.org, you can support local accredited businesses that are still operating in a safe manner throughout this pandemic, so I encourage you to do that as well. As well as our webinars just like this. We have an entire library of really great informative presentations. So if you go to bbbevents.org, you can see upcoming webinars as well as get a list of all of our recordings and view all those past recordings on any particular topic that we have. So really thank you all for attending. I hope you'll have a great afternoon. And once again, Larry, thank you so much. And this will be up, the recording will be up relatively soon. So everyone have a great afternoon.
Take care. Thank you.